In 2006, with the recent release of the PS3 and Xbox 360, Sega wanted to bring Sonic to the next generation of consoles, and so we got Sonic the Hedgehog, better known as Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. This game was to act as a reboot for the Sonic series, as you can tell by it having the same name as the first Sonic game on the Sega Mega Drive. However, this game failed to reboot the series and was a commercial failure. Not only did it release in an extremely buggy state, but it also ruined the reputation of Sonic going into the 7th generation of consoles. Just search up lists of worst video games ever made, and most if not all of the lists you click on will have this game included alongside games like E.T. and Superman 64. But today I'm not here to talk about the failure that is this game, rather I'm here to talk about the success of another game. Sonic Project 06 is a fan-made remake of Sonic 06. Primarily led by a fan that goes by the name of Chaos X. This game attempts to fix almost everything wrong with the original game whilst porting it over to PC. Currently, Sonic Project 06 is still under development, however so far there are 3 parts to the game, a Sonic part, a Shadow part, and a Silver part. While Sonic, Shadow, and Silver are the main 3 characters you'll play for most of the missions, there are also some other characters. Those being Knuckles and Tails for Team Sonic, Omega and Rouge for Team Dark, as well as Blaze and Amy for what I like to call Team Future. The main thing that I'm going to talk about in this video is how each character feels to control, as that is the main thing that, at least for me, determines how good a Sonic game is. So let's start with Team Sonic. This game is an adventure-style Sonic game, meaning Sonic does not have a boost ability, but rather he has a spin dash. This spin dash is as spammable as SA1, which is very good considering you apparently had to completely stop to spin dash in the original 06. Sonic also has a slide, a lightspeed dash, and a bound. This gives Sonic a lot of options for movement and opens up paths that he would not be able to take without these abilities. Sonic of course has a jump and a homing attack. I really like the homing attack in this game as there are 3 different options for how the homing attack controls, meaning the homing attack can be changed depending on how you want Sonic to control. Whilst you explore Sonic's levels, you may find these gem abilities that add another ability to Sonic's moveset. However, you can only have one equipped at a time. I really like these gem abilities as they give Sonic more options for movement as well as combat, and let the player make their own style. These gem abilities also open up new paths and are amazing for doing skips in each level. My only complaint with Sonic's levels are the Mach Speed sections. In the original game, these sections were supposed to show off the power of the 7th generation of consoles. However, they did quite the opposite of that. Many players would get mad at these segments as Sonic felt almost uncontrollable. Project 06 has fixed these a little bit, but it is still sometimes annoying when Sonic is moving that fast. I will credit the developers for letting us slow down Sonic by holding down on the stick instead of forwards, but it's still sometimes annoying. Anyways, moving on to Tails. Just like Sonic Adventure 1, Tails can fly and tail swipe, but he also has the addition of being able to throw dummy ring bombs. This is my main way of attacking with Tails, as not only can it be used whilst mid-air, but when a bomb hits a target, the dummy rings also do splash damage to surrounding enemies. Also, if the X button is held down, then Tails will get an aiming reticle for his bombs, which is very useful when you're trying to hit enemies from far away. I don't really have much complaints about Tails, as he controls pretty much perfectly. Knuckles is another character I don't have many complaints about, as his moveset is almost identical to his one in SA2 with the glide, punching combo, and a wall climb, just with the addition of some different finishes to the end of his punching combo. If the player presses X to finish a combo, Knuckles will end it off with a Stonebreaker, which is an AoE attack useful for attacking groups of enemies. He then has a dash punch that can also be used without starting a combo by pressing the B button. This attack is useful for when you have multiple enemies lined up in a row. Finally, he has his uppercut finisher that is mainly used against taller enemies or enemies that are flying above. Overall, Team Sonic all have very good movesets, and this shows in Sonic's campaign. Shadow is my favorite character to play in this game as he controls like Sonic but doesn't have the Mach Speed sections. The differences are that instead of having a bound attack, he has his signature Chaos Spear, and instead of having to spam homing attacks to kill enemies, he has a punching combo. Chaos Spear not only acts as a ranged attack, but gives Shadow a little bit of height. Chaos Spear can also be charged up to release a stronger version of itself. It also has tech. If you use an air dash and perform a Chaos Spear, then you get another air dash. This is extremely useful as there is an addition to this game where you get a score bonus if you defeat multiple enemies whilst mid-air, and the score bonus increases depending on how many enemies you defeated. Using the tech of air dash into Chaos Spear into another air dash, you can get clips that look like this. Shadow's slide is also slightly different from Sonic's as it has a tornado effect that makes the hitbox of the attack bigger the longer it is used. Shadow also has vehicles that he can ride during certain sections of levels. I don't have too much of a problem with this as most of the vehicles are skippable or they're just fun to use, and the sections are short anyways, so the ones that are bad are over in like less than a minute. When this bar fills up whilst playing Shadow, he can use Super Saiyan Chaos Boost. Once he has activated this ability, he can defeat more enemies to upgrade the ability. At base form, Shadow's homing attack now snaps to enemies. At level 2, Shadow's Chaos Spear will now do a charged up version when tapped, and the charged will do an even stronger version of Chaos Spear. And finally, at level 3, Shadow can perform Chaos Blast, which will let him send out a strong shockwave that will destroy anything in its vicinity at the cost of having to completely stop for a few seconds. All of these abilities make Shadow my favorite character to play in this game, as it is so fun absolutely tearing through hordes of enemies. Rouge controls almost the exact same as Knuckles, but instead of having different finishes, she has bombs that she can throw as projectiles. These might seem like weaker versions of dummy ring bombs, however, these bombs have the added addition of turning into mines if used on a wall. Rouge is alright to play as, however I think I like playing her a little less than Knuckles as she doesn't have different combos for me to mess around with. Omega is the shooter character in this game, and is one of the best characters to plow through enemies with. The robot has a lock-on attack from SA2, and a combo ending with a barrage of gunshots. For movement, the robot can jump and hover. Whilst hovering, if you try to do a combo attack, Omega will instead shoot out a big missile. Whilst playing Omega, you can also turn this game into a first-person shooter because why not? Omega is an amazing character to play as in this game and is a complete powerhouse. According to the internet, Silver was one of the worst characters to play in the original 06, so I was excited to see if he would feel good to play in Project 06. And man, the developers must have cooked up with this one. Silver's main way of attacking in this game is with his Psychokinesis. When Silver uses his Psychokinesis, he will pick up any objects close to him and even enemies if they are stunned. The player can then press X to launch them at enemies. This might sound annoying having to pick up things to attack enemies, however Silver also has a ranged attack. This attack does a little bit of damage to enemies and stuns them, allowing the player to pick them up with Psychokinesis. This attack is a single thing that makes Silver so much more fun to play, as it gives him an option when he has no objects around him. As for movement, Silver has quite a short jump, but he also has the ability to levitate. This ability can be turned into a dash if the jump button is quickly tapped twice. This makes Silver feel fun to traverse stages, even if he doesn't have a spin dash like the other hedgehogs. I do have one complaint about Silver though, and that's that he relies too much on this magic bar. I've never found this bar annoying with any of the other characters, but with Silver it feels like most of my deaths are just from me jumping off edges and not realizing my magic bar was fully depleted. Blaze is my second favorite character to play in this game. This is because her abilities let her absolutely blitz through stages. Fireclaw is a homing attack that has the secondary function of making Blaze jump off the ground and then dive back down to it. She also gets a double jump and a spinning ability that lets her attack enemies whilst keeping her pace. She also gets this new attack which isn't too useful, but it's there in case you need another melee attack. Amy only has one section in the entire game, but she still controls amazingly. She's got a double jump just like Blaze and her hammer. Her hammer can be used mid-air on the ground and whilst running to get a big jump. She can also spin around with her hammer, but this will cause her to become dizzy if spun for too long. Overall, the characters in Project 06, in my opinion, control better than any other Sonic game. Literally, my only complaints are the Mach Speed sections for Sonic, and Silver having to depend too much on his magic bar. And even still, these are very minor complaints as they don't affect gameplay too much. Now I'd like to briefly talk about the level design before I end the video, as for me that is the second most important thing that determines whether a Sonic game is good or not. It's pretty good, as not many changes have been made to the levels, and you can almost always count on Sonic Team to give us good levels. Keyword almost. I mean, the only change that I can think of off the top of my head is the Ball and Silver's run of Dusty Desert getting a complete overhaul. The level design is good as there are many branching paths that let you skip certain sections of levels, saving you time. However, sometimes it is not a good idea to take the fastest route, as you can potentially get more points by fighting enemies that you would have otherwise skipped. For example, one of the first skips you will find is in Sonic's Wave Ocean, where you can jump off this pole to skip fighting some enemies. Things like this are very important to consider in Sonic and Shadow stages, as you may or may not get more points from going down what might seem like the bad path. Silver's Tropical Jungle is a stage that I find interesting, as it is basically a maze. There are these turtles that you must ride to get to certain sections of the stage. However, these turtles are very slow, which makes you want to plan out when you want to get off. I also like how the levels are arranged to benefit the characters that you are playing, as many times I noticed that Shadow had more enemies to fight as he is the combat character, Sonic had more tricks to do in order to skip fighting enemies as he is the speed character, and even Omega had more enemies at range. I also like how Blaze's sections have a mixture of parts to speed through and enemies to fight, as she kinda feels like a mixture of both Sonic and Shadow. Everything that was fixed in this game by Chaos X and his team has turned this game into one of the best 3D platformers I have ever played, and my second favorite Sonic game, even though it is not made by Sonic Team. What Chaos X and his team have been able to do to Sonic 06 is honestly something incredible, and I can't wait for future updates. I would recommend this game to anyone, whether they are a big Sonic fan or even if they've never heard of Sonic before. I'm going to put a link in the description that will bring you to a video where you can download Project 06, so that you guys can play it for yourselves if you haven't already. Well, what are you waiting for? Just play it, it's free.